from beyond the grave, and welcome to the second annual Party of One Halloween Spectacular. I am your ghostly host, as always, Deathstormer. This week, my victim of choice is my good friend Ken-O, who joins me for a monster-filled, post-apocalyptic playthrough of Leadfoot Getaway. Leadfoot Getaway is a two-player role-playing game about a single complicated mission in the life of a pulp fiction driver. It's about cool car chases, mysterious packages, shadowy threats, and did I mention cool car chases? It is an extremely fun game that I've wanted to feature on the show for a long time, and I'm very excited about it. You can find Leadfoot Getaway, as well as dozens of other fascinating microgames, in the Indie Mixtape Megamix, which is a compilation of music-inspired microgames bundled together with proceeds benefiting medical expenses within the game design community. It's good games, for a good cause. How could it get any better? Absolutely check out a link to the Indie Mixtape Megamix in the show notes. Now, a few quick things before we get started. First, a very special thank you to Christopher Burge and to our friends at ShuffleQuest for their support on Patreon. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to back the show on Patreon, you can do that at patreon.com/partyofonepodcast. Backers get access to bonus material, mini podcasts, and interviews, and Patreon dollars pay for hosting fees, equipment costs, and convention appearances. Hey, speaking of convention appearances, November 2nd through the 5th, that's 2 days after this episode drops, which I'm freaking out about just a little bit, I'm going to be at Metatopia in Morristown, New Jersey. Then I'll be in Dayton, Ohio the following weekend for a Catacon. Then I'll be back home in Philly the following weekend for PAX Unplugged. If you're going to be at any of these three conventions, track me down and say hello. I'd love to chat. And with all that out of the way, let's throw it over to me in the past so he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week I'm sitting down once again with Ken-O. Ken, thanks so much for coming back on Party of One.
Oh, I've been looking forward to it. I'm so happy to be here.
So, this week, for our Halloween Spooktacular, we are playing a game called Leadfoot Getaway. It is one of the games from the Indie RPG Megamix, which was a collection of micro RPGs released for charity based on song lyrics. This game is Leadfoot Getaway by Grapon, and it is about a driver delivering a package, being chased by a threat, and I read this game and I immediately thought of the character you're going to be playing this week, a returning character from the show, Mr. Vic Frankenstein. So why don't you reintroduce us to Vic Frankenstein?
Sure. Well, the first thing we have to do, and since it definitely ties into Halloween in this setting, the Frankenstein family exists.
Yes.
They everything happened. They built the monsters and all of that. And they continued to exist into the new world and things like that. So Vic's descendants were in America, his father and his mother, when the apocalypse happened. And all of that, of course, it's hard to say what happened, whether the Earth satellite came too close between the Earth and the Moon, Thundar style, or whatever. But his family hid away. In a mountain compound, and he was born there, and he grew up with a loving family. His mom might have died a little too soon, but it was still him and his father, and he was Victor Frankenstein, and those things that you would expect did come with him. He was taught in the sciences and things like that. And unfortunately, the fateful day comes when a huge raider group knows that, hey, there's this two people hidden up in the mountains with all this crazy tech, and Victor was killed, and his dad, been through the apocalypse, already lost his wife, goes a little nutty and uses the raider parts to rebuild his son. So he's alive, but you can't have all that evil and rock and roll and things like that in a new body and it not make a difference. So Victor was suddenly Vic, and while he still had that good, sliver of goodness running through him, he also had the wanderlust and the love for fast cars and guns and things like that. So as his father got older and older, he finally passes. Vic takes all this wreckage from these assaults that have happened on this compound and builds together his own hot rod, which he named Elsa, and he went off to see the world. He'd spent this whole time in this compound, and in this ruined world, he pretty much becomes a courier. He doesn't want to be like a do-gooder or anything like that. It keeps happening to him, and he has that that good moral fiber underneath everything else. So he looks scary as all hell. He's a big giant guy, and he's green, and he's got scars all over him.
Bolts in the neck.
Oh yeah, bolts in the neck. One of the stats for this is style, and in the character generation in this, and black leather is an option, but it's not just black leather. It's black leather apocalypse. So it's the boots go all the way up, and they've got giant chunks of metal all over them, and there's random bits of armor over the leather for who knows what reason, because the one shoulder is more important than the other for some reason, or those things. So he makes his money taking things back and forth, and his rule is no passengers, but that of course always gets broken, and he ends up doing something that he doesn't want to for the good of everybody else.
Yes, and that is exactly where you find yourself. It is one of these. That's exactly where you find yourself at the start of Leadfoot Getaway. Just as there is always a driver, there is always a passenger, a package, and a threat. So, we open with you already on the road. You're barreling down one of these old desert streets, right? Real Mad Max.
Gotcha.
On top of Elsa, there is a massive, it's almost the length of the car, and it's thick, and it's old, and it's musty. There's no other way to put it. There's a coffin on top of your car. And in the passenger seat, there's a wormy, shifty-looking young man in beat-up, patchwork, worn, dusty priest's clothes. He's got the white collar, and he's got the black shirt, and he's got like a jacket on, but it's all patchwork, and there's like. He's got, the jacket's got armored shoulder pads as well, because everyone's got shoulder pads, and he's got knee pads. Like there's armor plating on top of like a casual business wear priest's outfit.
That's fantastic.
And he's shifting. You found him. The two of you are driving. The sun is starting to set. And he starts, like, grabbing you at the shoulder and saying, you've got to go, you've got to pull over, it's starting to get dark! And then we cut back. And we see you're driving, you're barreling down the road in between jobs, and you see this man dragging this coffin. Terror in his eyes. You pick him up. Let me ask you this. One of the questions is, why do you take the job? Why do you pick him up?
So, and I looked at everything on there, and good business was one of those reasons. And of course, that's what he tells himself. This is good business. And then immediately it's ... really, because it's the right thing to do. Like the lie is he's in it for the money. He's not.
So yeah, I think he sees I think the priest sees your car and starts waving down a handful of old scrap, like old pre-war money, and he starts waving you down. You pull over. The two of you load the coffin on top of the car, and it's heavy. Like, it's definitely not empty, right? We all know that there's something inside the coffin, and he loads it up, and he starts telling you his story. And he says his name is Father Barry. He was part of an old order, a religious order, a religious order that lived the legacy stretched long before the apocalypse, and we had hoped that the legacy would stretch on until a new civilization rose. We prayed as such because we knew our purpose was too important. We were an order devoted to protecting that which must never fall into the wrong hands. And he kind of, as he's telling you this, as you're driving, he looks up. He looks right past the roof of your car. And he starts, he grabs a dirty handkerchief from his pocket, and he starts dabbing at his forehead because he's starting to sweat and get anxious.
Oh, jeez.
And he's like, we've protected this relic for generations. Thousands of years, Mr. Vic. We have protected it for thousands of years. Until they came. I couldn't call them a mob, because that's too... They were more organized than a mob, but not as organized as a military. They were just a well-armed gang. They ransacked our monastery. They robbed us, and they tried to take him. They tried to take it. And I was the only one that survived, and I fled, and I took it with me, and here I am, and I'm just trying to get... There's rumors that there's another monastery somewhere, and I just need to get there. And if you can take me, we can repay you. We don't have... I'm sure they don't have much, but we can find a way to repay you, and more importantly, you will be keeping... His face gets real grim. A dark shadow from casting over this world. There's enough suffering in this world, and that which we protect cannot be allowed out into the world once again.
So instantly that's all hitting like way too close to home. You know, monastery practically, well-armed raiders type situation. So he already knows that, yeah, I'm helping this guy, but in the car, he's just like shakes a finger as he's driving. It's like, this reward better be worth it, Padre.
I promise you that the rewards, both material and immaterial, will be worth it for every person left on this blasted earth. And whoever you are driving, you're driving, you don't really know where. But soon enough, you drive for a while, and it's not long before you see shapes in your rearview mirror. At first, it seems like just a biker gang. You know, you've dodged a few of these before, but then you start seeing that a lot of the bikers are wearing shrouds and plague doctor masks and long, like, almost opera gloves, like those full-length gloves and they're on motorcycles and dune buggies and all of that Mad Max shit.
Oh, that's amazing.
And now we begin the game proper. So, the way that Leadfoot Getaway works is I have laid out... It uses a deck of cards and a number of 10-sided dice. I have laid out 7 cards face down. I'm going to flip them over one by one and describe a beat of the chase. As these bikers try to overtake you, then you're going to describe how you overcome the obstacle in front of you, and roll a number of dice based on one of your 4 stats. Those 4 stats are hammer, how fast your car's engine is; wheels, how precise your brakes and handling are for stunts; steel, how tough and armored your frame is; and style, how cool and high-tech your systems are. So, with that, I'm ready to kickstart this chase.
Yes, let's do it.
So I flipped over the 6 of spades. Spades in Leadfoot Getaway are threats. This is where the biker gang, directly attacks you. And a 6 to 10 is dangerous. So what happens is you're ducking and weaving among bikers when you see that they pull up an 18, like an armored... I'm going to say an armored car. One of like the smaller armored cars. And it's got spikes on it. They've clearly intended to just ram you off the road and take you out by force.
All right.
So how do you evade this direct attack?
Okay. So just to make sure, I'm going to pick one of my attributes and then roll the number of dice that I've put in that attribute.
Yes.
Okay. So they went armored. I'm gonna go on style now. Even though this is a very like car rider centric, and we talked about everything's built on this. I only put 2 points in style, and each style point and this is technically a cool gadget or something like that. So Elsa doesn't really have a lot of cool things, but what she has are definitely deadly, because we have a ram prow and we have 2 machine guns on the hood. So seeing another armored spiked vehicle would take that kind of as a challenge. So hits the brakes a little bit, lets it shoot a little forward, and then is just gonna hit it with the ram off the road.
All right. So you're gonna roll 2d10, and you're gonna tell me how many of those are higher than the number 6.
Alrighty. I got a 6 and a 2.
Okay. 1 success, you clear the card, flip it face down. You have overcome your first threat. Yeah, you actually punch through it, is what happens. You punch through it, and it spins out, and it topples over, and Elsa, like, you hit a ramp at just the right moment, and just dunk in one side, out the other, and, like, it is toppled over. The bikers are scrambling when a Jack of Hearts. Jacks do interesting things. Oh, the road goes onto a bridge, into a tunnel, or out of the open landscape. And a heart is a stunt where you can go over or through things. So I think what happens is there's definitely a canyon or a ravine that you're sort of hurtling towards, and then like on the other side of it, because like now you're starting to get into mountains.
Right. There's
definitely like narrow pathways through the mountains. They're starting to. So, are you going to jump it? Are you going to turn around and take on more of the bikers? What do you do?
I think we can build up enough speed, and
Now, the interesting thing about face cards in Leadfoot Getaway is you can't take them away by dice. They simply always stay face up, and they always cause a cool thing to happen. So what happens here is you hit the jump, right? A bunch of them a bunch of the bikers come with you. Several of them don't make the jump, but a few of them do. And it's when you get to the other side that you start to hear a distinct chopping noise from above you.
Oh, jeez.
It seems like they may have invested in a few gyrocopters. I flipped over the 7 of spades, which is a hazard.
Okay.
So yeah, you hear the gyrocopters above, but the main concern right now is that like you've got to keep your eyes on the road because you're in this mountain pass, and there's a lot of like jagged rock outcroppings, and there's always the threat of a crevasse that you could fall into. You've got to be ready.
Right.
So how are you handling your way through this mountain pass?
We're gonna go with steel. I know that I've got reinforcements where they're needed. We'll knock some of the debris off the ram prow, and we'll just kind of muscle our way through a bunch of this. Keep an eye on the chains holding the coffin to the car so we're not losing anything. And 7, 8, 5.
Okay, 2 successes. 2 or more successes. Yeah. So you get to keep an awesome token. These will let you do cool things and reroll some dice, add some extra effects as we play. They're cool to have. Awesome. So you get an awesome token. And I think what happens is we get a shot of a crevasse opens up in front of you, and you just like hit it. You hit the gas, and like there's kind of you hit the gas, and it looks like you're gonna drive right into a wall, but it's the same kind of thing as with the armored car earlier. You punch through it with the ram, and now you're in a cave. One of these big hidden caves, right? You have basically found a secret, one of the secret areas in like a Mario Kart.
Right, hitting that secret.
That's basically where you're at.
Shortcut, nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to flip that card over, which is good because you always want to be flipping over your black cards. And we'll figure which I will explain why when we get to the end of the chase scene, but for now I've drawn the 8 of diamonds. Diamond is a straightaway. So yeah, you're in this big long tunnel, right? It looks like it might have been a tunnel through the mountain, like in the old days, in the pre-war days. It looks like it might have been one of those man-made tunnels, almost like a turnpike tunnel. The bikers are coming behind you. You no longer hear the gyrocopters. You have to imagine that they're trying to go around the mountain, but they've got to go the long way.
Yeah.
That there's, I'm going to say, like 3 or 4 bikers still left on you. You know, there's like a dune buggy, 2 motorcycles, and you see a big Jeep right in the back, and it's got a minigun on top. But it's a tight tunnel, so you've got a little bit of freedom to do what you want to do.
All right. Well, we said straightaway, so I think that one is put the hammer down. Just floor it as fast as possible.
All right. You want to roll higher? You want to roll an 8 or higher? Tell me the 8s or higher.
All right. We're gonna do. We're trying for hammer here. 4 dice. I got a 10, 3, 5, and 7. So 1.
All right. 1 success is all you need. The red cards we want to keep face up, so your 1 success keeps the card face up. We move on to the next challenge. You tear out of the straightaway. They are starting to fade away on the horizon, except a 6 of hearts. A heart is a stunt. Right. Okay, yeah. There is this was definitely an old turnpike. You know this because you're now on like what looks like a really developed road. However, the problem is it's a really hard turn. There's a metal guardrail that's like rusted but still there, and it kind of just there's a steep drop below as it kind of turns off to the right. So you could hang on the road, or you could punch through the guardrail and see where you land.
I'm gonna guess. You know, we just came from just flat out running the engine as fast as I can, and Elsa's, you know, built on chassis and suspensions of old muscle cars. A tight turn just probably isn't going to happen. So
all right.
When I see it, I just Vic puts one arm, you know, kind of in front of the priest and just says, hold on a second, and just hits it even harder again, and just to fly through it.
Give me a roll. You want to get higher than a 6.
Right. I got a 9 and 8, a 6, and 1 on the floor, so 3. So 3.
Okay, so for each of those, so you've got your success. You keep the red card face up. You've got you punch through the guardrail. The 2 motorcycles hit the guardrail and they get sent tumbling over. The Jeep has to hit the brakes and stop. So you've got your success. Now you've got 2 other dice. You can decide to take awesome tokens, or you can keep those, or you can add those dice to your next roll. And I'll tell you what your next roll is before I give it to you. Before you choose. Your next roll is going to be an 8 of spades, which is perfect because you're in the air for a long time. You're in the air as you're like floating through the air. Then you hear the whirring again and see like the 3 gyrocopters starting to surround you, and you know that they're pretty much going to be like in firing position the second you hit the ground.
So this is beautiful. Then I'm going to keep the 2 9s, right?
Okay.
And I'm going to use style on this. So while I'm in the air, it actually just gave me the perfect opportunity. Normally, Elsa's guns are mounted on the hood. They're pretty much fixed points, so I have to have my nose pointing at whatever I'm shooting at. Mm-hmm. Now I'm in the air, and gyrocopters are in the air, so I just open up with the machine guns while flying through the air. And all
right, give me that style roll. You want to get an 8.
I'm going to keep those 2 9s. So then, do I still roll the 2, or do I just take those as the 2?
You roll 2, and then so you're gonna roll 4.
So, yeah, it'd be those 2 successes then.
Okay. So you get you light up the two. You light up the two of the 3 gyrocopters right in front of you, right? You punch them. You just knock them out of the air, and you watch these two plague doctor looking dudes. You watch these 2 plague doctor dudes fall, but they kind of fall slowly. Oh. If that makes sense. They don't seem to fall in the way that you would think people would fall to their death. They kind of just float to the ground. Elsa crashes to the ground, and we flip over our last card. Ooh, a Jack of Clubs. So, as established, a Jack is the road goes onto a bridge, into a tunnel, or out into the open landscape. So you're out on the open landscape, right? But it's a hazard, and the hazard is this is where we finally flash all the way back to that first scene. The hazard is absolutely that the sun is setting, and Barry's like, we can't be out at night. We can't be out at night. You have to find cover. You have to be indoors. We have to be indoors at night.
Oh no. I kind of gruffly back. It's like, yeah, we don't have a whole lot of options for indoors if you haven't noticed, Father.
So we're at the end of the chase, right? You've left behind the plague doctors, you've left behind the gyrocopters, the Jeep is sort of watching you from up on the hill. Everything seems quiet. The sun is starting to set, though. There's sort of a tension in the air as you're watching the sun just slowly disappear. Now we look back at the cards that we've got, and we'd say where you end up. Where you end up at the end of the chase. So right now you have the Jack of Hearts, the 8 of Diamonds, the 6 of Hearts, and the Jack of Clubs. Which means there's more red cards than black cards, but they're not all red. So you end up at a hideout. Where are you hiding out?
So we've gone off the interstate. So we got to think of, what would be around in that situation. So, I can only think that we're in the remains of an old, Cracker Barrel or something like that. Just ridiculous,
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah. Yep. It is specifically an old Cracker Barrel. There's a lot of, people have left behind a lot of a lot of the weird old Cracker Barrel store stuff.
We're set if we need to play, giant checkers or something.
Yeah. There's a lot of brain teasers with the little pegs, but a lot of the pegs are missing. And you've loaded the coffin into the Cracker Barrel. Barry's just sitting there. And you didn't realize this. You didn't know that he had this, but he's just sitting there with a gun pointed at the coffin.
Kind of, raise an eyebrow at him and walking the perimeter, making sure that we're decent, that there's no other squatters or anything there while we're held up there, and look over at Barry and be like, so I think we should probably talk about the guys chasing you, huh?
When they attacked the monastery, there were just bikers, but it seems that there is something more sinister afoot. It seems that they know what they stumbled upon, and something from the shadows is conjuring some kind of an army or force or rallying the bikers of this twisted hellscape to take it away from me, from us, to put it in the wrong hands.
So what, following us? It didn't fall like a human, Father.
I don't think that they are. I think you're exactly right in your assessment, Vic. I fear that we are being hunted by And he stops for a second. You may find this hard to believe, but there are the monster stories of the world before. Not all of them were fiction.
Kind of, hold the inner smirk, but it's also, even though I know, like, obviously my family story is real and it's monstrous, it's at least based on like a science. So other things like that, we start getting into we haven't really hit anything supernatural outside of that. So that's a little like, there's still some doubt in there, but there's got to be a reason why, right? Like, there's got to be a science behind what he's about to say.
I see the skepticism in your eyes, and I am no scientist. I know not the answers to why Alfie, he doesn't have a name. It is just it. He is not a man. He is a monster. I don't know how he lived for as long as he did. I don't know how he lived off of the blood of other people, but he did, and he lived, and we killed him. But he never stayed dead. So my order watched him for 3,000 years. Until these bikers ransacked the monastery. Surely now, at the behest of some sort of vampire army. I don't have a better way to describe it.
So, in that box is a 3,000-year-old vampire.
Yes. In that box is the vampire lord that I, Father Franklin Barry, have sworn to protect and sworn to keep dead. In that box is the body of the Dread Lich of the original colonies, the American colonies. In that box is the body of Lord Alfred Chocula.
Oh, the build-up was so good. I let it all sink in for a moment because it's a lot.
It's a lot going on.
Well, Father, let's take just a moment to look exactly where we are, and I like toss, like a stuffed scarecrow, like candle holder over my shoulder, like from one of the shelves. You've got an army of something that ain't quite human chasing us across the middle of nowhere. You have a vampire in a box, and you don't really know where you want to put it.
The Barry clan, spread across the remains of North America, guarding these sorts of arcane monstrosities and relics and things that could cast the world into shadow, which, and he looks around and starts laughing a little bit, is ridiculous when the world is already on fire. But the best that we can do is keep things from getting worse. Sometimes when things are bad, the best you can hope for is that they don't get worse, and that's what we do. So, do I know exactly where we're going? No, but I have, and he pulls out an old, withered, it's a notebook, like a binder, and the pages in it are yellowed, and some of them are like held in with those plastic
Right.
like paper guards, and some of them are binded in, and some of it's like papyrus, and some of it is old parchment. It is an old like Necronomicon looking motherfucker. And he starts flipping through it. I have the locations of every monastery that we established. If we can get to just one of them, then maybe there will be people in it that we can lock this away safely once again. And if we don't, then we live in the age of the vampire.
Settle into one of the army of rocking chairs around the restaurant, and kind of stare at the coffin for a little bit, and I'll take you to the first monastery. I owe you that much. Pick you up. Once we get there, then we'll see what happens next. But no promises past the first monastery.
He gives himself the cross and he says, "Thank you. Thank you, Vic. I hope that we will have to go no further than the first monastery. And if we do, then I will not expect you to give any more. If the first monastery is burned out, I will find another way to the second. You will have done your part, and you will have helped preserve this world, to preserve what little safety exists left in this world. We should leave in the morning."
Yeah, get some rest. We'll head out at first light. We'll probably be skipping breakfast.
And that is the end of our character scene. Now, how many awesome tokens do you have?
I have one.
Okay.
Because I kept the other because I kept dice on the other time.
Okay, cool. Because you have the option when you're at a hideout to increase one of your stats by spending 3 awesome tokens, so I didn't know if you had 3 or not. So now you get to choose where we're headed next. Are we headed towards the drop, which is the final destination? Are we headed towards a haven, which is another one of these like safekeeping spots? Or are we headed towards a safe zone, which cannot be a haven, but is at least somewhere else free from the threat? Each of these determines the number of cards, the amount of difficulty that you're going to face. A safe zone, I deal out 5 cards. A haven, 7. The drop, 9. And then the safe zone is just you're free from danger. The haven will unlock certain abilities at the completion of the scene, maybe a character scene, maybe you'll get to improve your stats. And the drop, if you get there safely, is you've won.
I'd like to do Haven because it looks like that's a good way to possibly get some upgrades before
Okay, then
trying
let's
to get the drop.
That sounds great. Let's do Haven and then a drop.
Yep, I think that works.
Perfect. Okay, then I'm going to deal out 7 cards, face down. You leave at first light. You don't skip breakfast, because there's nothing quite like a Cracker Barrel breakfast. It's really just the finest taste of American, home-style American cuisine. All at affordable prices, though technically, in the post-apocalyptic wasteland, that affordable price is free.
The most unlikeliest of sponsors for Party of One podcast, Cracker Barrel.
This episode brought to you by Cracker Barrel. Try their special Halloween breakfast. It's probably a thing. It's probably pumpkin flavored. It's probably delicious. Okay, I've laid out 7 cards. Yeah, you leave at first light. You leave after breakfast. And sure enough, it's quiet at first. Almost too quiet. You're watching the sun rise. It's just breaking over. It's just fully breaking over the horizon, right? You're just seeing the whole sun. And you make it maybe an hour, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like this actually might not be the toughest ride. And then, as I flip a card, you see the shapes again. This time, there's more of them. But they're in the distance. It seems like they took some time to regroup and are coming at you now that you're on the road. They didn't want to try against a fortified space, but now that you're on the road, you see a lot more bikes, a lot more cars, more of these gyrocopters. Everybody still well, not everyone. You see more of these plague doctors, but you also just see bikers, just more, just like this kind of biker gang, a lot like Barry was describing. And you see a few pickup trucks with people, with kind of like war boy looking dudes, like shirtless dudes, scrawny dudes in very specifically blue jeans, and they're kind of like hopping, and they're like you watch a few of them kind of like start to hop out of the truck, and somebody grabs them by the scruff of their neck. So right now, you've got a little bit of space on them. You've got a little freedom to engage or evade or do whatever you want to do. How are you going to dodge this threat? You only need to get higher than 3.
Right. So this is open road. Definitely time. While I still have time to maneuver, I think try to get as much space in between them and us. So I'm just going to hammer this one and see what I can get for that. So 10, 9, 8, 1. So that's 3 successes.
That's 3 successes. So you can take 2 awesome tokens or add 2 dice to your next roll.
I'm going to take 2 awesome tokens.
All right. I'm going to flip over this card. Flip the next card. Ooh, the Queen of Clubs. Something interesting happens. Oh, very good. So you're driving, and you see in front of you gyrocopters, and you start passing by. You're in the Cracker Barrel, so you're in one of these like roadside pit stop towns, right?
Right.
And they start throwing their Molotov cocktails, and a few of them hit just as you're starting to pass a gas station. Because the result on a queen is that there is a giant fiery explosion. So Elsa gets knocked and flips, and suddenly, like, all that momentum and speed that you've got, like, you're suddenly sitting still, and the gyrocopters are coming, the cars are coming. Everyone is starting to converge on your location as a 2 of clubs. Yeah, everyone's starting to converge on your location. You're on one of these long stretches of roads where there's, like, fast food places and gas stations as you kind of, like, start to make your way back towards a highway. What do you do?
We're just going to, they've pretty much caught up. We're going to ram through. We're going to use steel, and just roll over as many bikes and push vehicles out of the way as possible. Okay.
You just want to get 2 or better. Don't fuck it up.
Yeah, right. 773. So
that's 2 successes. 2 awesome tokens, or add 2 dice to your next roll.
I'm gonna go 2 more awesome tokens.
Okay. Yeah, you end up facing the opposite direction that you were facing in. So you just literally hit the gas and, like, knock a few bikers out. Like, one of these pickup trucks spins out. Oh, good. I got a 9 of clubs. This is very good, because this sets up exactly what happens next. You knock... One of these pickup trucks goes spinning, and these war boys hop out of it. And as soon as they're out of it, in your rearview mirror, you see the change start to happen. They start bulking up. Their pale white skin starts to turn furry and brown. Faces elongate into massive jaws. Now you're evading some genuine wolfmen.
Oh.
And they're growing 7, 8 feet. Like, they're huge. They're gigantic. These things are behemoths as they bum rush you. What do you do?
Well, there's definitely a moment of just shock. jaw drops. We Vic's at this point run across like radioactive mutants and some giant animals before, but full on, werewolves at this point is out of his wheelhouse. So it's definitely a shock. Let's see. I'm going to probably say first instincts to floor it and try to outrun, and we'll see what happens.
Give me a hammer roll. You want to get 9s or 10s?
Yeah, that's a rough one. I have 5, 1, 8, 10, so I have 1 success on this.
All right, you do flip the card. You are successful. You make ground because they're still on foot. Like, they're wolfmen. They are supernaturally quick and agile and powerful. But you're still in a car. Car still outruns wolfman. But now you're driving. You're outrunning them, and then you see the Jeep with the minigun on the horizon.
Oof, oof.
Which is appropriate because I just flipped the 10 of spades. So the threat is attacking you. So yeah, you see that Jeep come up over the horizon, like finally catching up to you. And they aim their minigun at you.
That's rough.
What do you do?
There's a bunch of downshifts and breaks and pretty much trying to get pieces of random cover and putting the more reinforced plating between me and where they're able to shoot. I'm going to try to kind of just soak through this and get myself clear with steel.
All right.
That's a tough one. Yeah, 7, 6, 4. So no successes on that one.
Now, you can spend 1 awesome token to reroll all of your dice, or you can spend 3 awesome tokens to swerve through and just flip that card outright. Or you can hold on to it and just keep that card flipped, or keep that card face up.
Let's see, I got 5 awesome tokens, and I'll spend 3 and flip that card. And that'll leave me at 2.
Okay, yeah. So you flip, you spin, you put the armor plating between you and the minigun, but it still like flips you backwards, right?
Right.
Like it still like it's pushing the car back. It's pushing the car back. But the nice thing is that as it's doing that, they start to lose control of the minigun, right? They start spraying it in all directions. Because it's a minigun, and this isn't exactly like a trained military professional. So the minigun starts going wild, and it basically slices a couple of the gyrocopters in 2.
Nice.
And causes a second fiery explosion. It's fireworks in the air as gyrocopters are going up. The minigun is spraying bullets in every single direction. Final card is the King of Hearts.
Just nailing all the face cards on this one.
That means something. That means, I believe, yes, a rival driver enters the mix. So the Jeep is spinning out, right?
Right.
And, what do I want the rival driver to be? Okay, yeah, it is, the Jeep is spinning out, the minigun is spinning, the Jeep is spinning with it, and suddenly, the bullets run out, so it kind of spins, and the back doors of the Jeep open, and... Okay, yeah. Just, one of these plague doctors, clad all in red, as opposed to everyone else in black...
Okay.
Starts floating out of the back of the car. And starts floating at you. He touches down. He's in this red plague doctor outfit, and he just points at you. But, like, everything is scattered, everyone is, like, reeling, and you're able to, like, swerve out and drive off.
Okay.
But he just watches you. and you see him just watching you as he fades.
Oh yeah, eyes don't come off the rear view at that point. That's
Mm-hmm.
creepy, and flying guy too on top of that. But yeah,
Okay. So that's the end of the chase. This, you seem to have met the gang leader. This vampire lord attempting to conjure Lord Count Chocula. So now we survey where you end up as you kind of scramble out of this, like, roadside town.
right.
You've got 3 cards face up, because face cards can never be flipped.
Mm-hmm.
The only cards you have face up now are your 3 face cards, which are unfortunately 2 black and a red.
Right.
Which means you end up in a bad turf. You're driving for a while. You hit the highway, you drive for a while, but, it takes a little, like, you drive for a little while, you feels like you're safe, and then suddenly it's thump, bum, 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 bum. Shit. Something knocked out a tire.
Oh, okay.
You look around and you don't see, and then you see that there was like a spike pad on the road. Then you're like driving, you almost pull over, and then you see another one of these spike traps that you almost like, and you realize you're in some sort of like trap field, right?
Oh, geez. Okay.
Somebody has set up a series of complicated traps. Like, you see a little bit ahead of you is like razor wire put about at like chest level. That if you'd have driven straight through, would have been a bad scene. And it's things like that. There's just traps around, and you realize somebody has rigged up this entire thing with traps. It's not like sophisticated, it just looks like this is somebody's scheme, right? Like, this doesn't look as organized as the other army. So now I'm going to draw 3 cards. You pull over, and you step out of the car. You're starting to change the tire when from behind you, you hear wheel, like pedals squeaking.
Okay. Look around. Hand, goes from the tools to the pistol, just ready.
It is. You turn around just in time to see a clown in a little tuxedo, riding like an adult-sized tricycle towards you. So now the way this works is when you encounter a turf lord, I flip 3 cards.
Right.
I flip 3 cards one at a time, just as I do on the road. They represent different things that I'll go into, and you can try to overcome them, just like you would on the road.
Right.
Except the way that you do this is you have to spend awesome tokens in order to overcome things.
Okay.
Yeah, so every awesome token you spend is a single dice. So it'll be difficult. You might not get to flip over all of the cards, and you kind of have to decide when you want to spend your dice.
Gotcha.
So right now, I flipped over the 7 of clubs. I flipped over the 7 of spades. Spades here are threats. So this turf lord, the clown, leans in and says to you, I see you have ridden into my fun house of traps. You're free to leave if you can escape. I accept negotiation, but I doubt you have anything I'm interested in.
Yeah, we don't have much of value right now, and I don't think we have a whole lot you'd want us sticking around here with either. You should probably just let us move on. I'm not going to roll on the 7. I'm going to see if I can get some better odds for that.
Okay, I've got a 5 of hearts. Hearts here are compliments.
Okay.
So he looks at you and he says, I observed your driving earlier. I think that what you have to offer is entertainment. I think that I have grown somewhat bored of less skilled drivers navigating my obstacle course, my lethal obstacle course? Yes, it is quite lethal. I suspect someone with your skill should navigate it quite fine.
All right. Do I need to roll on the reds, or are we just okay on the reds?
I don't think you need to roll on the reds. So, yeah, so he says that, and and my last card was the Ace of Hearts.
Right.
So it's another compliment. So what he actually says is, yes, go, I will offer you no quarrel, but you will have to navigate the road. You'll notice that your car has already been repaired, and you turn around and sure enough, that tire's fixed.
Oh, jeez.
Good luck, and may I say, in advance, rest in peace. And just starts riding away.
Yeah, I look around again, because certainly one of the more surreal things, clown in the middle of nowhere in full of death traps, and slide back into the car and look over at the priest and just be like, you keep some real interesting company, Barry.
This one's not me. I have no idea what this was. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little uncomfortable myself and would like to leave.
Yes, definitely. Very carefully start wandering back through his maze of lethal booby traps.
And with that, I think we're going to kickstart our last chase scene.
All right.
Because I think this is a good place to start the chase scene, is having to, like, navigate through death traps. So I'm going to draw out... So for the drop, I draw out 9 cards. At the end of this chase, you get to the monastery, and hopefully you find somewhere where you can store the body of Count Alfred.
Right.
So, now we start our final chase. I've drawn out 9 cards. This plays out exactly the same as before. We start the scene, you are in this maze of death traps. There's razor wire, there's landmines, all manner of, like, makeshift death traps that you have to avoid. And sure enough, as you start to do that, you look in the rearview mirror, and there he is. Just watching. Points a single finger at you. And you have a feeling that a lot more... Your friend in the red plague mask is here, and you have a feeling that a lot more people are going to come with him.
Now he's still just flying, right? Not even...
He's just floating over the ground. So I'm going to flip my first card. Diamonds, I drew the 10 of diamonds. Diamonds are straightaways. So I think what happens is he points a finger at you and like a half dozen motorcycles, including one that seems to go through him, and he just sort of like floats like fabric on the wind. And they're barreling towards you, but you've been driving through this field of death traps. You're on the other side. You've got open road ahead of you. They've got to navigate death traps. What do you do?
Give it that look for a minute as I see just the oncoming horde and a glance at the open road ahead of us and just squeal tires and pedal to the floor and dropping the hammer down as quickly as possible.
You want to get 10s.
That was a great roll, but it was not a 10, so that was 8773.
Okay, you can re-roll your dice for an awesome token, or we can flip over this red card.
I got 4 on it, so I'll use one token and re-roll and see if I get anything. I got 10,882, so I did get 1 success.
Okay. The car stays. Yeah, you a few of them. One of the motorcycles hits a landmine right off the bat, and it sends like two more of them tumbling over the side of this freeway. You look back, and the man in red is gone. That's not good, right?
No, that's not good.
But you've got the road ahead of you. You're keeping pace. You've got the road ahead of you. They seem to be having a lot of trouble with this maze of death traps. A 4 of clubs. Clubs are hazards. So yeah, they seem to be having a lot of trouble with this maze of death traps. But here's the thing. Hold on, let me get in character for this. Do you know what the ultimate death trap is? It is the moment when you think you're safe. And then the real game begins. So yeah, you start driving, and then you see a whole row of spike traps come up to like knock out your tires, and yeah, what do you do?
We're gonna muscle through and go off road for a moment and just shoot through whatever debris is on the side of the road to get around the spikes and then jump back onto the road. So I'm gonna pop that one on steel.
You want to get higher than a 4.
All right, I got 5, 5, 6, so I did get 3 on that.
Okay, so you can take 2 awesome tokens, or you can add 2 dice to your next roll.
We're going to go back with us to get some awesome tokens here.
All right, so the next draw, you do that. You do that, like you punch through the spike traps, right? Everything seems like it's okay.
Traps.
And, yep, right into more traps, because I drew the 10 of clubs, which means that, there's one final trap, right? You start driving, and you see from both sides logs, and they're gonna hit right as you pass under them at the speed that you had to go to get past the spike traps. It's gonna be a dead-on collision. It's both sides crushed under this log trap. What do you do?
I'm gonna try to outrun it. I see it coming, and
right.
I don't have a whole lot of great chances on that. But I'm gonna just I grip the wheel even tighter. Slam the gas down, and I got 110, 10, 7, 7, 7. Yeah,
that's all it takes. Yeah, that's all it takes. You hit the gas. We get a little bit of that Batman effect where a little bit of fire comes out of your tailpipe, and you're just gone. It's just like, boom! The Back to the Future flame strips are on the road. You pass right by them. And even though you are driving, even though you're in the car, even though you're barreling at 100 miles an hour, you hear, well done. Happy travels. Congratulations.
Just, hate him but respect it. Just put a hand out the window and like 2 fingers and a quick wave and just keep going and hoping that more of these guys get eaten up by whatever he had on the road.
They are suffering, and it seems like you might be okay. It seems that way. And then wind starts twirling. Sand. That's weird. I guess it's not that weird. Sand starts twirling. This is a real weird time for a sandstorm, but that's exactly what you seem to be caught in.
You quickly get all the windows sealed up. Brace the car. So I'm not gonna get like flipped by like super heavy winds or anything strange. Kind of look over, out all the windows because obviously I'm worried about something coming up in the sand. But I'm gonna just weather this one out with steel.
All right.
and 754. So I got 3 successes on that
Great.
one.
That's 3 successes, which makes sense. You only needed to roll a 3. But, so you get 2 more awesome tokens, or you can add 2 dice to your next roll. What you see, though, is you're watching the sandstorm, and it seems, after a moment, the wind, the whole day's got to be playing tricks on you. You can't see a face in that sand, right? That's ridiculous.
I'm going to keep 2 dice. I think I might get...
All right.
I think I might need those.
Yep. Okay. A few cars start to get through the maze. And more importantly, a few gyrocopters. They start descending. And the face in the sand, it sort of like begins swirling, and it throws itself at you with all that force. And at least 2 of the gyrocopters crash into each other and trigger another fiery explosion. As we threw the Queen of Diamonds. Boom! Gyrocopters are exploding. The wind throws Elsa. You are tumbling through the air. You actually see... Oh no. The King of Clubs. Oh no, this is perfect. You see the coffin snap loose from the chains and start to open. As the sand swirls around and forms that man in the red plague doctor's outfit again, the coffin starts to open, and dust and ash dump out of it. And suddenly there's 2 swirling masses of gas. There's the sand that's forming the man in red, and the ash is forming... Well, you kind of know exactly what it's forming. It's cape and finery. The kind of finery that you've never seen, in this post-apocalyptic world. And he stands, this vampire, in all of his glory, and suddenly, the man in red just sinks down and drops to a knee, and the vampire lets out, "Ha! We flip our next card. Face cards always stay face up. The 4 of spades, perfect. So yeah, the 2 of them now point at you, and Chocula points at you, and bats. Turns into a flood of bats that start, knocking your car and shaking it. They're trying to flip it over to basically smash you and, knock you over. These are the largest bats you've ever seen.
I'm gonna, skid out a little bit, get them in front of me, and I'm going to open up with the machine guns using the 2 dice that I had saved on this 4. So 4, 4, 5, and 1. So I got 3 successes on that.
Okay. You can take 2 awesome tokens. You can take 2 on your next. You can take 2 extra dice on your next roll, which is it's an ace, so that's a 1. So this is good. You open fire. Right. You light them up, right? You start torching them. You're mowing him down. He reforms into the vampire, and you just keep gunning. You don't let go of the machine guns, and
he's 3,000 years old. He doesn't know miniguns at this point.
So yeah, you're just letting him rip. He goes down. The man in black rushes the car. Do you engage? Do you drive? What do you do?
Yeah, there's the thought that I was going to get out of here, but now the whole point of getting this far was to stop this thing from getting out and doing evil in the world, and now it's out. So, there's a lot of grumbling under his breath, and he's angry and he's causing. But as soon as the man in black starts running towards him, I'm just gonna, gun still running, just smack right into him and plow into him as hard as I can.
All right.
So
Give me that roll. You can't fail this. So yeah, you light up, roll your dice and describe how you destroy the man in red. Describe his death scene.
Oh yeah, that is like 10, 7, 8. So there's the spin out gravel flies, the little bit of the fishtail in the back, and then Elsa takes off. The ram prow hits him, and he goes sliding up the hood, and then slams into that giant coffin again, on the roof as almost like a second weapon with the vehicle, and then just goes like tumbling down off of everything.
Fantastic. Yeah. You see his body fall, and for the first time, you get a glimpse at the man underneath the shroud. And you see his withered, bandaged body, seemingly preserved for even longer than the vampire lord of the 13 colonies. Something older, something dark, something older, something impossibly older, yet. And then he kind of fades into ash, just like the ash that Chocula dissolved into. And then suddenly, for the last roll that we'll make, it's a 6 of clubs, so it's a hazard. So what it is what is a good... Oh, I know what it is. Yeah. It's been a really long day. The hazard is the sun is starting to set, and you have a feeling that, Chocula, as powerful as he is when the sun is out, probably a lot worse when that sun goes down. So you've got to get him back into that... You got to figure out a way to get him back into that coffin in the next few minutes. Because he's hurt, like he's down, but you've got to figure out a way to get that coffin onto him.
Well, we're going to go kind of to the antithesis, I think, of this game, and remember that Vic is, outside of the car, like a 7-foot giant monster man. So he's gonna look over to the priest and is like, "Watch the car," and pretty much just jump out, and we're looking like Undertaker chokeslam type into this coffin. Just get a batter off anything that's still around. Big punches, giant heel boot kicks, and grab Chocula by the throat. And
I'm going to call that 3 awesome tokens. You don't need to roll for that, but you got to spend 3 awesome tokens for that.
I am happily spending them.
Now, how many awesome tokens do you have left?
I have 2.
Okay. So you don't have enough to flip over this black card. So you get him back in the coffin, you get the coffin on the car, you drive. Everyone is pursuing you. You finally get to this monastery, and it's old. It's old. It's battered down. It's not great.
Right.
But it's standing. You pull up to the gate, and there is an intercom. Barry walks up and he buzzes. And a voice on the other side, you hear the crackly voice say, "Franklin? Father Franklin? Is that... Oh my God, is that..." And they don't look like fighters, per se. They don't look like soldiers, per se, but people seem to emerge, weapons in hand, and 6 of them, pallbearer style, take the coffin, and they start carrying it inside, like, real stoically.
Just, one eye on what they're doing, and then an eye on the horizon constantly after, the whole past 2 days of constant chase.
Barry says, "I can't promise that this place will hold forever, but it will hold for now. Thankfully, it seems like this monastery is held so far, and hopefully it will hold for the foreseeable future. We'll figure out a better option, but this will do for now. You have fulfilled your end of the bargain. And judging by how that bandaged fellow looked, I think that this gang, this monster army, I think they have been routed for now. So thank you.
You kind of, walking around Elsa, I'm like, yeah, she'll, hopefully you'll have something I can do some minor repairs with, but,
you're welcome to take anything we have, and also, I have a payment for you. The Order were ancient, and it was not merely through religion that we kept the Lich King of the 13 colonies at bay. We had no shortage of science, and looking at you, I think that you might value the notes that we had. And he takes out a small book, and on the inside, or on the front page, the first page of it, it just says, the supernatural science, a field research manual by V. Frankenstein. dated 2019.
I eyes kind of go wide a little bit, and I put it, quickly in tuck it into the jacket, and again, the reluctant kind of look around, the shifting, and then like, when this happens again, Father, and you need something, send word and I'll be here.
Of course. Now bring the car inside. There is much work to be done on it. And you kind of put the gear, you put it in first gear, you wheel it, you push it through the gate, and that's game.
That's awesome.
That was good. That was real good.
That's good times.
Ken, thank you so much for coming back on Party of One. This was a very good episode.
Oh, I love it. Together we've kind of created a character that's really always in my mind. I'm always thinking about stuff that I want to do with it. So anytime, I'm thrilled. I love doing this.
Of course. I feel very similarly, actually. So, real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you online?
I'm I don't really do a whole much. effingmonkey.com was my old website. It's still all there. It's old, just comic and hockey and booze ramblings. But I'm also on Twitter at effing monkey Keno, and just random nonsense on there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the show. This was wonderful. This was a very good Halloween spooktacular.
Yes, happy Halloween, everybody.
So I am going to throw it back over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take a future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Ken for coming onto the show. That game ruled. I really loved how that game turned out. Be sure to check out the links below for information on the indie mixtape Megamix, and be sure to follow Ken on Twitter at effingmonkeykeno. Then while you're on Twitter, you can follow this show at Party of One Pod, then slide on over to Facebook and like the show at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. If you really enjoy the show, consider giving us a nice iTunes review, a social media shout-out, or a word-of-mouth recommendation. All three of those things help new listeners find the show, which helps us achieve bigger, better, and cooler things. Then, if you want to hear more from me, check out All My Fantasy Children, the podcast in which Aaron Catano Saez and I take your listener prompts and spin them into beautiful, thriving, vibrant role-playing game characters. You can find that at allmyfantasychildren.com. Party of One is produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates coming onto the show, or you just want to send me pictures of your Halloween costume because I'm sure it was really good, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. Well, that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And until next year, Happy Halloween!